The Kolbe A Index is an instrument designed to help you focus on your strengths, on how you do things when you're free to do them your own way, when you're in the zone, in that glide pattern, when you're able to do what you do best, when you are striving. What do you most or least do? One of the purposes of the Kolbe is to focus on what you do well and to show everybody that you have equal cognitive abilities, that everyone is somewhere on these continuums in the 4 action modes. Wherever you are is just fine for you. It's just great because there's no good or bad, right or wrong. Who you are is who you were meant to be. And the Kolbe Index is validating and celebrating the strengths that you can use in decision making that are naturally there for you and will always be there for you. These are positives about you. MO is shorthand for modus operandi, or mode of operation. Kolbe has 4 modes, so we could say modes of operation. But to summarize it, it is your innate pattern of taking action, the behaviors that you will use in any situation, any day, any time, as long as you are striving and as long as you are working toward either a decision or some kind of action in the creative problem-solving process. So your MO doesn't come into effect when you're relaxed or doing recreational things. At that time, you're not striving, but anytime you are, your modus operandi, your MO, that pattern of action will be in place. An action mode is a cluster of behaviors that are derived from instinct. Since instinct is a subconscious force, we can't measure that, but we can measure the actions that we can see, observe, and report. There's a continuum of behaviors in each of the action modes. No matter where you are in that continuum, it is an equal strength. To help you kind of summarize where you are, we've given you the number from 1 to 10. People have a sense of how smart they are, or how good they are at different kinds of skills. You knew when you were put in the red bird reading group or the blue bird reading group where you kind of fit in on the bell-shaped curve in the cognitive. And emotionally, affectively, you know whether you're an introvert or extrovert, and there are instruments that will help identify that for you. Kolbe is different. Doesn't deal with either your IQ or your social style personality. It is the only validated instrument that has proven absolutely reliable in predicting your actions, how you will do things, how you get things done best. And it can predict what works for you and what doesn't. I say can because you're the one that completes it. This is important because this is the one part of you that is unchanging. This is the one thing you can count on. It's kind of the core of your being. It's the essence of you. It's not going to change. Fact Finder is a Kolbe action mode. It's the term for how you deal with gathering information. There's a continuum in Fact Finder, and that continuum is from doing things in a very simple overview way to a very complex, specific way. So at one end, the 1, 2, 3 level of Fact Finder, you generalize. At the other end, up to the 10, is how you become an authority or an expert. You have a wonderful knack for being able to gather information very specifically. On that continuum in the Fact Finder mode, what you do naturally is give the most comprehensive information that you'll find in any group. I mean, you're one of those people who is on the end of the continuum where justifying the data is just part of your game. It's what you do. And putting it into very elaborate strategies where what you've done is weighed the pros and cons, looked at things in a lot of detail to be sure that what you have is so thorough, so precise, and so on track in terms of the research having been done. Follow Thru is a Kolbe action mode. It's a term we use for that method of taking action that deals with organizing, storing, and sorting information. At the low number end of Follow Thru, it's an ability to be highly adaptive and multitask. At the high end, it's being very, very systematic, where you put things into sequence and where you build in a lot of structure. So it's from chaos to highly organized or sequential. In the follow-through mode, there's a continuum from being highly adaptable to being very well organized, structured, and sequential. Your place on this continuum, your natural talent, is to be that person who's adaptable, to be at the end of the continuum where you're the person who multitasks. Not many people in the population have this knack that you have. Without people like you, what would happen is we wouldn't take advantage of opportunities. You are so terrific at moving when you need to move outside the box. Quick Start is the Kolbe action mode that deals with risk and unknowns. We all have to take risks. We all have to deal with unknowns. At the 1, 2, 3 level in the Quick Start is where you bring stability, where you deal with what is known and you try to manage risk so there are as few unknowns and as little risk as possible. At the high number end in the Quick Start, it's how you innovate or improvise or just take a risk without having to know what the outcome will be. You're the go-to person when it comes to taking risks. This Quick Start continuum is a fun one to watch in a group, in a family, and any place where you are. You're at the end of the continuum where they're going to turn to you and say, well, what do you think we should do? What's next? Do you have any ideas? And yes, you do. You're there, ready, able, and willing to come up with alternatives, with other ways of doing it, taking chances, beating the clock, taking on challenges. And the way you do this is so innate, so natural that you don't even have a sense that other people don't do that. But look at where you are in the continuum. Look how many people are at the other ends of the continuum and in the middle, and they have sometimes difficulty keeping up with you. They're not always sure where you're headed because you don't know. You're experimenting, you're exploring, you're trying it out and seeing what's going to happen. It's really important for you not to try to justify or explain your ideas in advance. Just go for it. Implementer is the Kolbe action mode through which we deal with the instinct to handle things literally. It's a scale from the abstract to the concrete. At the 1, 2, 3 level, you imagine results. You don't have to touch and feel them. You just are able to look at them from inside your head or from a distance or hear on the phone what's happening. At the other end, it's very concrete. You need to touch it, actually interact with it, deal with the three-dimensional aspect, to build it, to be very concrete, to construct. And you don't have to touch and feel things to know they're there or to know what's happening. That doesn't mean that you don't have a sense of the environment around you, but it's a sense of. It's not a hands-on three-dimensional, you have to touch it.
Discover your 4 and 8 action modes by taking the Kolbe Index test. Click here.